shame a woman for changing her mind or her life. This one is so big for me.
Yeah.
I am so tired of the narrative, and women do this to each other as well. Well, she's got how many marriages? She's got how many baby daddies and all this crazy stuff you hear. I have two fathers with two children. I was married twice. You cannot control someone else's behaviors.
Yeah.
You cannot shame a woman for starting over. There is no shame in taking control of your life and saying, I'm not going to deal with this anymore just because we have a kid together. That's old school thinking that you have to suffer for so many reasons. But what example is that showing? That you have to give up your life and suffer in order to give somebody else life. And that's not the case. Like, we all have one life to live. Learn that women, just as much as men, have every right to protect themselves, start over. I had to start over realistically 3 times before I was 40. And that wasn't something I foresaw, but I can only control me. I can't control somebody else.
Hello, welcome back to the F.E.E.L Podcast. Today, I'm your host, Melissa Crook. I've got a new friend here. Thanks to our good friends at Podmatch. They are always bringing me the most wonderful, remarkable women who have these incredible stories, but the story doesn't stop with them. They see their stories and they realize that there are resources they can offer to others. There are conversations that they can lead based on what they've learned and their own experiences. And Teresa Rosario-Hernandez is just another example of one of those extraordinary women. I'm so excited to have her here with me today to share her story, her resources. She's got a podcast of her own. We're going to get into that. She'll be able to share that at the end today, so stay with us. But we're going to get to know her today and how she got to where she is today and how she determined it was time for her to start being a voice in this area. And it's going to become clear as we go through the conversation. I don't have my glasses, so I'm going to attempt to read my own writing of the character traits that Teresa gave me. All in a day, folks, all in a day. Real things happen to us here too at the F.E.E.L Podcast. But Teresa describes herself as she's determined, she's independent, she's hopeful, she's hardworking, she's professional, and she's a forever dreamer. Teresa Rosario-Hernandez, welcome to the F.E.E.L Podcast.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It's been a long time waiting, I know, for us.
I know. We talked several months ago, and I just hang with me. I'm scheduled out a little ways, but I know I want to have you. And you were so graciously patient and waiting. And the day is here, and I'm so excited. And this is not going to be the only time you're going to hear from Teresa this month. She's going to be joining us on our panel conversations as well. I believe that's going to be next week from the time this drops. And you're going to hear multiple times from her and other extraordinary women who are really showing up and providing safe spaces for women who have been in these similar experiences that you've been hearing about this week on the F.E.E.L Podcast. And we'll get into that as we go along today. But to start with, Teresa, talk to me about the importance of prioritizing self-care in your life and your journey with that. This has been a journey for you. And so I want you to talk about how you have come to the point you are today.
Well, for me, self-care has been very nonlinear. It's been a very nonlinear journey. I've had a lot of ups and downs in the past couple of years. So I always say in my podcast, it's not always spa days and bubble baths and pedicures, even though I do advocate for those. Sometimes it's just hard choices, right? Like walking away from people or situations that might drain you, that might pull your energy, or saying no without guilt. I've spent my entire life being a yes person and never realizing that's what I was, and being so scared to say no all the time. And I still struggle with that. But I realized for me, self-care can look like putting away my phone for a little bit or putting it on Do Not Disturb and just playing my game. Simple things when I'm feeling overstimulated. I mentioned that at some point I am a single mom and my kids are 10 years apart. So they have very different needs, very different times.
Oh, wow.
I have one talking in each ear all the time. And it's a lot, right? Sometimes you're just like enough between
Mhm.
that and work. And you have to be able to read your own energy and say, I
Mhm.
can't right now. I need to relax. I need to put myself first. I need to take care of this. Also, which I find really good is a community, right? Sometimes a community of women.
Mhm.
It could be
Mhm.
friends, family, people that understand you, people that know you, friends that might be able to listen to you.
Mhm.
Therapy. For me, therapy has been a huge one. That's somebody who's not biased, someone who doesn't know me and won't really interject their
Yeah.
personal opinion, right? We talk about how self care
Mhm.
is deeply personal. So it's never going to be one size fits all. For some, it's rest. That's it. For some, it's just rest. I know for me, I would love to get more rest if I could. For others, it's sweat. It's journaling. It's dancing around the kitchen. I always say with a glass of prosecco
Mhm.
or coffee or tea. Um, I think the big thing, the key is to ask, what does nurturing me look like today?
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that giving yourself that room to meet yourself where you are and listen to your body and
Yes.
look at your schedule and see, okay, what feels filling to me today? What feels like it's going to serve me the best today? And having that menu to kind of pick from, but being flexible with that.
Yes, because every day is different. Every day you may not be in the mood. Like
Yeah.
I don't exercise every day. Probably I know I should, but my brain sometimes is like, no, my body, my brain, my mind, I'm tired. I'm like, I'm not getting on the bike for an hour.
Mhm.
Other days I'm like, I have so much pent up energy. I got to get it out somehow. And that might be right then and there the day that I need that. Other days it could be lighting a
Mhm.
candle and saying my prayer or reading my book. So there's always ways. And you really do. I think not just females, of course, males as well. Any of us you need to listen to your body, listen to your energy and your spirit. And if your energy is drained, find ways to restore that in I say the quickest way possible because it's not always easy to find ways to do it. Sometimes you need to do it quickly because we don't always have
Yeah,
hours at a time to do things, right? Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I love that. Think of that thing you can do for 5 minutes. It might be a walk outside, take a breath, listen to your favorite music, do a little quick dance party, or just take put your timer on 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit here outside, listen to the birds, 5 minutes.
Five
Those little
minutes.
things add up. Thank you. Yeah, I thank you for that. I think sometimes we overcomplicate it.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
because they do. They
yeah,
make it feel
absolutely.
like you have to do crazy things to feel better. It doesn't necessarily have to be that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Talk to me how confidently setting boundaries fits into this for you. I'm sure this has been a journey too. You have been in a relationship in the past that has not been healthy. And I'll let you speak. And so many times when we're in those relationships, you don't even know what boundaries are. And I don't want to, so I want you to tell your story, but I know that can come up a lot. But also, when it gets to the point where you need to care for yourself, and that can require setting some healthy boundaries to carve out the time for that and to
Yeah.
also carve out who gets access to you or not.
Yes. For me, I've learned sometimes the hard way is that setting boundaries, it's not about pushing people away. We have this sense that setting boundaries,
Mm.
now keep in mind, setting boundaries will push people away. I've learned this the hard way. People that are most advantageous of you not having boundaries will be the ones that end up getting pushed away because they don't want to respect
Mhm.
those boundaries. And a lot of times it's the people that are closest to you. And for me, it's about keeping myself safe and sane. I grew up in an old school
Mm.
household. There was no such thing as boundaries. So I was raised without boundaries. And then I end up in relationships where I don't even know what a boundary is. And as I've come
Mhm.
through these past couple of years out of that narcissistic relationship, I've started to see that there are things that I can do and ways and boundaries I can allow and that I can press that are more for my self-respect as well. They're for me. So it might sound like I'm not available for this conversation right now, or I need you to speak with me with respect, or I'm stepping away. I'm not doing this. Right. On my podcast, we've talked about how confidence with boundaries grows as you practice that. They get easier. They're like muscle memory for your self-worth. That's something that I love to say, because you start to realize that just like anything else, the more you practice it, the more you feel better about it. And it goes that way with anything in life, people that you know and people that you're just starting to know. I do that in dating as well. You have to learn what your boundaries are, because they're going to be different for every relationship you have. But as long as you're respecting yourself, that to me is the most important. Yourself, you're sane, you're safe, you're sane, your sanity and your safety.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. You're respecting yourself and your safety and your sanity. Those are the 3 S's. Those are very, very important. Thank you so much for that.
The 3 S's. I like that. Didn't even put that together, but that's great.
I know. I think you can bottle that. Okay. And this goes nicely into, you mentioned, narcissistic relationships can really do a number on our mental, emotional, physical health, because narcissists are very crafty at kind of sweeping you in and then playing on the vulnerabilities, where I hear these comments all the time from women that I've talked to about, you start feeling like you're losing your mind. And you start feeling like, you start getting questioning yourself, everything you're thinking, everything you're doing. Sometimes if they're really crafty, they will work on your family and friends to kind of try to get them to come along their side, to try to create this image of you that's actually not accurate. So there's all kinds of ways that this can happen, and it does so much harm. Talk to me about your experience with this and how this has impacted your mental, emotional, physical health. And you're also a mom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, this one hits home, because realistically, I did not recognize myself. When I looked at myself back in 2023, when I had to literally extricate my ex from the house after a year and a half of finding out and the discovery and trying to put him through rehab and the support and doing all the things a good wife does when the wife is broken down to nothing, and still not being and completely losing myself. And I had realized, looking at myself in the mirror, not only did I not recognize who I was, I realized I hadn't recognized who I was in a very long time, because I had given everything to this person, everything. And I lost myself in this person. And for what happened in that respect, then when I found out everything I had given and given up was just somebody was taking everything from me, including my physical health. My labs were all over the place. I had gained 30 pounds from not taking care of myself. I was a shell of a human. I was a shell of myself. I literally was down to the possible bare bones you could be, because I had somebody who took me to nothing, took everything away from me. And then on top of that, trying to show up for my kids who knew what was going on in the house. As much as you can shield, there's only so much you can shield in a 2-bedroom apartment. When their father is on a bender forever and their mother has lost her mind, because she's not only trying to keep everything together, she's trying to keep their life together, keep their father together, keep the marriage together, their family together. And yet she is a shell of a person herself. So for me, what I've learned, and again, this is realistically since that time, in the past 2.5 years, is giving myself permission to feel. Now, at the time, I was feeling everything a million ways over, right? And I mean, and just the screaming and the crying and the right, whatever helped me, but it wasn't feeling and processing. It was reacting.
Yeah.
It was reacting. Yeah. And that's something people don't teach us, the processing of it. So I right now, and I started back then again. I used to do this when I was younger. It's so funny how things sometimes go full circle. I write things out. I write a lot of
Mhm.
poetry. There are days that I can't write a journal entry because there's too much going on. I'll just write whatever
Mhm.
comes to my head. And a lot of times it comes out in poetry form. And I'll
Mhm.
just do it that way. And I'll read back and I'm like, wow, that's pretty decent because it's just whatever way I can get it out on paper. I use voice notes on my phone, which I think are a
Mm.
wonderful thing for people who don't write, you
Yeah.
know? Talk to your friends. I mentioned before, talk to your therapist. I've tried breath work, which is great. I've also tried sitting in my car, blasting music and forcing myself to cry sometimes.
Mhm.
We don't realize sometimes you maybe say, I don't have a reason to cry. We all have to get that release. Those are toxins we are getting rid of when we cry. And depending upon the mood I'm in, that'll depend upon the music I play. I know what's going to do it. And I just let it go. I didn't realize this was a thing, but using my own sources, I created for myself a response toolkit
Mm.
and I have it with me all the time. And
I
I think this is
love
a
that.
wonderful tool for anybody who just isn't sure how to handle certain situations. Because since I still have to, I'll use handle for lack of a better term, or deal with my ex husband, obviously, because we have children together and he lives not even 10 minutes
Mhm.
away. There are times that things
Mm.
still get heated. They're going to get heated. There's a personality disorder there. So I had to learn
Mm.
again, my reaction is protecting me and protecting my kids.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
can't allow this person anymore to affect my health. I'm still struggling, trying to lose the weight and stuff like that. I can't allow it anymore to affect my health, my sanity, my sleep. So I use my toolkit and I look at it all the time to the point that now that if I'm using it, again, it's that muscle memory. It's saying, if you're going to disrespect me,
Mm.
okay, redirect. Redirect your energy.
Mm.
I'm worthy of respect. I'm done with this for now. You are not allowed to talk to me this way. All the things that I wouldn't have said before because I was be speaking through
Mm.
anger. And I use
Mm.
affirmations, which I believe are so important, even when you're at your lowest and it's the hardest. The thing I'd love to say is emotional health is about letting that storm pass.
Mm.
Instead of pretending it's sunny all the time when it's not. Um,
Mm.
the goal is to move that energy. Don't bottle it up. Work out. Do something that makes everything lighter, gets rid of the noise. It's easy to drift into people pleasing
Mhm.
or overcommitting, right? When you forget why you started doing things. So my values are self-respect, growth, honesty, and freedom. So when something feels off, I ask myself if it aligns with me. That's it.
Mm. Ah, so good. So good. I love that toolkit. That is such a great thing to have with you because we lose when we get into an emotional state. We can't get to our rational self, but we know we've
Right.
got that right there to grab, put it in your phone, take a picture of it, have it in
Yes.
your purse, whatever it is where you can get to it quickly to help you reset in that moment. That is brilliant. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
sharing all of that. And I love that you addressed that quit. You don't have to pretend it's sunny all the time. That is not life. That is not reality. And you're only hurting yourself by not allowing yourself the space. If you feel like crying, cry. Sometimes we don't even know why. Sometimes it's things that our bodies and our nervous system finally feel safe. It's finally quiet enough. We're in a safe
Yes.
space and it's time for that thing to be released. And that's a good
Yes.
thing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's just, again, feeling what comes through at that moment. Once you process something, you sit back and you realize that you really needed it, whatever it was, you really needed that. And one last thing that I've noticed, and people think that's so crazy, but for me, I've had times where I am so heated, so hot, so ready to blow or explode that I'm like, I've actually walked out my house, put my headphones on, put my glasses on, my sunglasses, and I took a cry walk. I would say like a long
Sure.
cry walk just to literally get it out and just let it go. I'm like, I got my sunglasses on. People don't really, there's not enough people around to know what's going on, but just
Sure.
enough. that I can say when I get back, okay, all right, now I can look at things a little clearer and get that excess energy and get that excess energy away from me. Yeah.
Yeah. And give that time, being that gentleness with yourself, applying that gentleness to yourself. Yeah. So good.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that so much. All right. How we can support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically. You are doing this. What you're doing now, that toolkit you just shared, the Prosecco Queens podcast, this is all exhibit A of how you're not only showing up unapologetically for yourself, but you're also giving space for other women to be seen, known, and heard in these spaces, and sharing your story and offering your resources, which is, I love women so much because that's what we do. This is just another example of that. Talk to me about when you knew that it was time for you to move into that step. You've learned what you need and your value and what you will and won't tolerate. You've established those non-negotiables for yourself. You've, and quit feeling responsible for all these other things around you that aren't your responsibility. When you decide, wait a minute, there's conversations to be had here, and there are resources I have to offer. I can help others with this too.
For me I've learned that we have to show up for each other with less judgment and more grace.
Yeah.
People do not realize, and I'm going to say people in a whole, unless you're in it, you do not realize the way life is going to life. And especially for women, the impact of the daily that we struggle with. And I don't necessarily just mean single mothers. I mean women in general of all ages, starting from young girls. We have to celebrate each other's wins. We have to not secretly be measuring our worth against somebody else. I am sometimes one of the worst culprits of that, not judging others, but wondering, well, how did they get that? Maybe I just didn't hit the genetic lottery, or maybe how did, people, you look at somebody who looks like a supermodel and you're like, well, how come they don't, they're gorgeous, and how come, my genetics didn't work that way? Or you look at somebody who people may not think is as gorgeous. Oh my goodness, they got a beautiful husband and family. And you got this supermodel over there who's by herself. There's so many things and so many ways we judge each other, and it's unnecessary. We need to remind our friends who they are when they forget, and vice versa. A lot of times I'm very self-deprecating because it's a lot of stuff that I'm working through in therapy myself.
Yeah.
I'll say it a million times, advocating for it, because sometimes in my head, I'm like, you know what? I'm saying what others are thinking. And that was just because of the way I was raised, right? I was raised very, very, where people just, again, no boundaries. People just said whatever. And it gets in your psyche and you don't realize. And then when you have betrayal by some of the people that are closest to you, it makes you question yourself. So a lot of times we don't see what other people see.
Yeah.
And people can tell you that. And it's still kind of hard to believe when someone tells you that, because you kind of feel like they're just trying to get you to stop, right? But the reality is they're just trying to remind you of who you are, and that you shouldn't forget that. Share your own truth, flaws, fears, triumphs. So someone else always feels that they're brave enough to share theirs. I love sharing stories. I put my story out there because I know for a fact there's other women who have not only had it worse in a lot of ways, but understand the pain, the heartbreak, and the struggle of the process, and never shame a woman for changing her mind or her life. This one is so big for me.
Yeah.
I am so tired of the narrative, and women do this to each other as well. Well, she's got how many marriages, or she's got how many baby daddies, and all this crazy stuff you hear. I have 2 fathers with 2 children. I was married twice. You cannot control someone else's behaviors.
Yeah.
You cannot shame a woman for starting over. There is no shame in taking control of your life and saying, I'm not going to deal with this anymore just because we have a kid together. That's old school thinking, that you have to suffer for so many reasons. But what example is that showing? That you have to give up your life and suffer in order to give somebody else life. And that's not the case. Like, we all have one life to live. Learn that women, just as much as men, have every right to protect themselves, start over. I had to start over realistically 3 times before I was 40. And that wasn't something I foresaw, but I can only control me. I can't control somebody else. Just my reaction. And and that's what we have to do. We have to give women more of the grace that we expect someone to give us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That was so important. Women, listeners, I want you to sit with that for a minute, because we don't change narratives for women if we continue to see each other as something we compare against, as the competition, as, and so I always talk, when I'm working one-on-one with women, we start with the layers piece, because it's like, let's get to a real loving, empathetic, comfortable, acknowledging place with all of your layers, because by doing that, you'll then know your value. When you know your value, you'll prioritize yourself. You'll also start seeing other women through a different light, because you're no longer operating from a place of scarcity or insecurity. You'll be able to see their value. You'll want to share with them what you've learned. It changes everything, because we will not change narratives for women in this world and make it a safer place with the same opportunities if we don't do it together. And the societal norms want to keep us at each other, because that keeps us from coming together and really changing things in it to make it safer and more equitable. And because when we do show up in those ways, in just the snippets that you get to see, whenever you see a situation where women come together and show up, man, we move the earth. I mean, we really, really do things. If we could do that on a global, broader level, boy, what shifts we could make. But we're going to continue to hear systems that are in place don't want us to do that. So they want us to second guess and compare. So thank you so much for that. That is such an important piece of this part of this process. Find ways that you can support each other. Every person has a story. And in that story, you can so when you feel yourself getting judgmental about someone's story, get curious instead. And that starts with you. You got to I really believe you got to start that with you first. And then when you're able to do that with yourself, it really opens the door for you to be able to do with that others. And that is how we show up for each other unapologetically.
Right. I agree. And I also think one more caveat to that is we have to learn. And I say we as a collective, because I'm one of a big culprit of this. We have to learn about how to take, accept, and learn from constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Because I think a huge part is that we get defensive so fast.
Yes.
We give completely unsolicited advice to everybody. You never know who's right, who's wrong, who to listen to. And my thought process is like, you don't have to listen to anybody but yourself. However, take from people's experiences. You're going to create your own experience regardless, but take from people's experiences and say to yourself, okay, I see that they kind of went through this. What can I learn from this? What can I do different? What pieces can I use that can help me level up my life? And I think that's something that because we're always pitted against each other, we want to keep each other down instead of trying to level up. And I think that's a huge thing that we need to, as a collective, learn as well.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, and that unlearning piece too. As you're learning, unlearn the stuff that's not serving you. That's actually old tired narratives and stigmas that really aren't for your well-being or anybody else's, any other woman's well-being either. So yeah, so good. Thank you so much for all of that. Such important things. And it's us having these conversations and highlighting these things where one step at a time, one woman at a time, we can move the needle on this.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that one woman has to suffer to teach 15 others how not to suffer, right? But in the sense is everybody has a little bit of their own wisdom, regardless. It does not mean that people say, well, your problem wasn't as big as mine. Absolutely not. It's all relative. It is all relative to your experience. You can learn and you can teach regardless, and to be a support for somebody else regardless. It's all collective wisdom. And that's how we're able to hopefully continue to raise generations of more women who are empowered by the struggles of the women before.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. All right. And this goes nicely into, and you talked about your values earlier. We're going to go back to that. You're coming back to your why and your values and everything you do. You identified your values specifically and how they inform how you show up in the world today. Can you name those again and then talk about how you were able to arrive at those?
Oh, my values. Self-respect, integrity, independence. I guess I would say that's a value or a characteristic.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, I think I think in a way there's a few of them. Hopeful, and I did say a forever dreamer, and that's not really a value, but in a way it's a value to me, because for me that helps me with my why. That helps me stay anchored. That hopefulness, that forever dream, because I have learned after everything that I've experienced where I thought there were moments, let me get a little dark for a second. There are moments I thought I was going to die from the pain.
Yeah.
I've spoken on it before. I've said it in my podcast. I'm open about it because you don't understand that, not you personally, you as a person yourself, as a collective, right? You as a person don't understand grief and the grief of the living until you go through it. Yeah. And grieving the living is probably one of the hardest things we have to do as a people. And for me, having that anchor that I have now of saying to myself, you know who you are. You didn't think that you can do it, and you're doing it. You are independent. You know that as hard as it can be at times, I am always hopeful. I'm always forever dreaming it's going to be okay. And it's going to be okay for me and my kids and me and my family. And that's my anchor. That's my why. For me, it's whenever it gets noisy, I used those values for me as the anchor that keeps me going. I just have to sit back and say, all right, you're a God-fearing woman. You're a good person. You treat others. A huge value I have is you treat others the way you want to be treated. And for me, it's just keeping that self-respect and that honesty when I need it. And that aligns with my why. Yeah.
I love that. So good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Talk to me about living out of your own expectations versus others. You have shifted into that. You have moved into that with these very intentional choices you have made for yourself. You know, we grew up with, you talked about it before, in generations where things were kind of laid out for you and no one asked you what it was you wanted to do. It was just kind of set out for you that this is what you should do. And you saw the examples around you and you followed that. At some point, I think we're starting to see more of a shift for us where we're saying, that's not serving me. That's not working. I can no longer live in this way, abandoning myself within this. You came to that point. You came to that point where you understood it's time for me to start living my life in a way where I'm respecting myself and honoring myself. And I'm asking that of those in my life as well. Talk to me about that shift of moving into this place of living out of your own expectations.
This one's huge for me because I have lived the consequences of trying to be who other people needed me to be constantly. It's exhausting and it's unsustainable. Yeah. Because it drains you. It drains the life, your soul out. Your life, my life, our lives are too precious to be a performance all the time. So the moment I started asking, what do I want? What does fulfillment look like for me? everything shifted. You
Mm.
know, you get to define the success, the beauty, the love, the joy for yourself. Is it always perfect? Absolutely not. I was raised that, you're going to go to college and you're going to have a career and you stay with a job for 40 years and then whatever, you get your pension and all that old school thinking all the time. And the one thing I did not ever see for myself or didn't realize was I didn't think about having kids. I didn't think about getting married. I didn't think about any of that stuff. And I look back now and I go,
Mhm.
was that weird? I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. Didn't mean I didn't want it. I just don't know that I ever really thought about it so much.
Sure.
And if I had thought about it, to be honest, I don't think I would have thought that I'd be 42, single
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
as a single mom, right? I don't think that that would have been the trajectory I would have put
Mhm.
myself on. But I know that was what was fated for me. And even when
Mhm.
days aren't hard, and there are days that I
Mhm.
still feel some self pity and I'm struggling and I'm tired and I'm at work constantly having to say yes to everything at work, right?
Mhm.
I think part of what I have been learning is that once you shift that mindset, once you honor yourself, then you're able to see things more clearly, right? And
Mhm.
you can be more you. You can also find out who
Mhm.
you is. Most of us
Yeah.
don't know that we don't know, right? We don't know. It takes a lot of self-awareness to learn who you are and what you'll accept. So we're just on autopilot half the time walking around
Mhm.
like crazy people in the world. And we don't even understand who we are as we show up. And I got tired of that. I got tired of just
Mm.
being something different to everybody else. And I'm like,
Mm.
if you can't accept me of who I am, I'm never a fake person to anybody. I'm exactly the same to the people I like and the people I don't like. I'm exactly the same person. I have the same, I always say the way you treat me is how I'm going to treat you and vice versa. That's it. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be I'm not even going to have the time. I'm not even going to acknowledge anymore. I'm going to say, you have your own personal journey. So I see why we have this interaction. I'm good.
Mhm.
So it's really about what suits you and what
Mhm.
helps heal your soul. That's how I'm starting. That's how I'm starting to look at it. It's taken me some time.
Sure. Well, and it's a journey, and this goes nicely into accepting the layered aspects of yourself. You're doing that layers work. That is what has allowed you to get here. Talk to me about what it's been like to really be able to embrace and acknowledge all those different layers and pieces and parts of yourself.
I always look back. This is so funny. And you may or may not know what I'm talking about, but some of them, I'm sure some of the audience will. The movie Shrek, the original movie Shrek that came out in like
Yeah.
2001 or something.
Yep.
Donkey says to him, he says, what does he says? Ogres are like onions, right? And he says,
Yeah.
what do you mean? They're smelly? And he says, no, they have layers. And he says, and I always, as a grown adult, who went to go see it as a grown adult in the movies, by the way, but
Me
as a
too.
grown adult, yeah, it's great. Um, I think about that a lot as such a funny way to see that we are not just one thing. We're contradictions,
Mhm.
strong and soft, confident
Mhm.
and insecure. That's a huge one for me. I've been called out about that. I'm very self-confident, but like I've said, I'm self-deprecating because there's things about me that I'm still not secure about, right? Even as a grown woman, um, fierce and gentle, right? That's not
Mhm.
hypocrisy. It's humanity. This is who we
Mhm.
are. We are layered. So I remind myself often I can be a work of progress and still worthy of love and good things like everybody
Mhm.
is, Those
Mhm.
layers make you interesting. They make you who you are. You should be aware of your different layers, accept them. If there's some that you're not a fan of, like me with my, self-deprecating self or my insecurities that I have, I believe that you should work on your insecurities, of course. And if there's something you don't
Mhm.
have to like everything about yourself, but then work on it, right? So you're
Yeah.
comfortable with it. But they make you who you are. So accept
Mhm.
them, learn from them, change them if need be, and keep going. We're all a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Thank you so much for that. That was such a great description of that. I really appreciate that. All
Thank
right. And
you.
this, you bet. I think it's just that the nuance of it. You said it so well. It's the nuance of it. There's, so many times we limit ourselves to living out of just certain spaces and instead of just allowing the nuance and complexity and the acceptance that in different scenarios, different parts of us are going to show up.
Yes, exactly. And who you're around depends on what shows up, who you feel safe around. Is going to depend how you show up in the world. If you have to be defensive, sometimes we have to be defensive. If you're able to be vulnerable, be vulnerable. It depends who, what, where, when, and how, literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And how safe you feel impacts all of that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. Talk to me in living out F.E.E.L, which is what I call this, the finding empowerment, embracing layers journey that you've so clearly, articulated and shared with us so vulnerably today. Talk to me about how doing this has impacted your relationship with yourself as well as your relationship with other people.
It raises the bar, right? When you live this way, you attract connections that feel safe and expansive. Right. That's a huge part of it. You're able to expand your horizons, expand your groups, expand your soul, your energy. And instead of sucking it out of other people, you get to literally expand your energy out. You stop settling for people who want you to shrink right around them. Still something I work on all the time, because sometimes us who are too independent or too on our masculine side as opposed to more of our feminine side, which we've had to be. Sometimes we feel we have to shrink ourselves in order to make other people feel less. We have to make ourselves feel less so we can make other people not feel less than, right? And I believe that that's something that we have to work on. You become better at communicating with what you need. And you're able to show up more for the people who matter. So it weeds out the people and the conditional relationships, those transactional relationships, right? You're able to say what you're able to be more in tune with yourself and say what you want. If you want a transactional relationship, great. I'm not against them, to be honest with you. If that's what you want and that's what you have an agreement with someone else, as long as you have an agreement with somebody else and they're aware of it. Right. Like, don't keep anybody in the dark about it. Don't use a person. If that's exactly what it's about, then that's fine as well. But it's able to speak that. I think F.E.E.L, your F.E.E.L isn't just a personal practice, right? It's a gift that you get to give to everybody that you touch and every relationship that you get to touch.
Yes. And that you just described it perfectly without me even asking you to. That really is what it is all about. You nailed it. That we might have to copyright that and say, thanks to Teresa, we have
I'll take it. I'm good. It's yours. You got it.
Much. Oh, thank you so much. That was so good. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Talk to me as we wind down here about 5 activities that nourish you.
Long talks with friends, my sister, my primas or my prima hermana, as we call them, my sister cousins that are raised like my sisters, my closest friends, moving my body, dancing, exercising, walking, stretching, whatever it is in that moment. Sometimes eating. I'm not going to lie. It can be a comfort. It also can be the guilt that, that kind of slips in there. But sometimes sometimes I just want the frosting. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Me too.
That's it. Right?
There's a time and a place.
Yeah, there's always a time and a place. You gotta, just as long as you don't feel guilty afterwards. There's the kicker. Don't feel guilty afterwards. It's self-care, self-love.
Yeah.
I love to journal with either music on in the background or just lay and listen to music. And also just sitting, could be outside, could be inside, listen to the birds, listen to, even if it's the highway next door, but just sitting with my coffee, sitting with my tea with no agenda, just letting my mind be, whether it's saying a prayer, looking at the stars, just existing in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's really one of my favorite ones, being present.
Yeah, so good. All right. And 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Okay. Rooted, a
Mm,
little more rooted, free,
mm,
open,
mm.
magnetic, and
Mm.
unapologetic.
Oh, so good. I love that. All right. Teresa, share with people where they can find you, follow you, listen to you. This will all be on our resources page at embracinglayers.com. Listeners, don't you worry. You'll be able to find it there. But share right now, real quick, while our people are listening, where they can find you.
Sure. Actually, I have actually been on a little bit of a hiatus for about 2 months now. Personal stuff, taking a break, focusing on my kids. But I do have
Yeah.
some ideas. So, and, in some time, there'll be some more episodes, but everybody can go and catch up on 3 years worth of episodes I have at
Perfect.
Prosecco Queens Podcast. That's on IG, Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. TikTok. Wow, I'm old. TikTok. Wow,
There are
TikTok.
TikToks too. If you're under
Wow.
30, go look that up.
I know my daughter will be like, really, mom? Really? And she's the one that put me onto TikTok. Woo. Oh man. Well, I'm on TikTok at Prosecco Queens Podcast. Wow. And on IG also there is the link to all the
Mm,
places you can find my podcast on all of the podcasting sites as well. I can be reached at Prosecco
okay.
Queens Podcast at gmail.com. I'm always open to conversations, show ideas, guest spots, anybody that wants to be on it as well. Give me great ideas for shows. And I'd love to hear stories also. And my
Mm,
website is a work in progress finally. So I'll be having some blogs on there also to, starting to the next couple months. It's like a lot of stuff coming and I'm
yeah.
excited about it. It's a lot of work when you do it, especially when you do it by yourself, but it's a work in progress. But yeah, I invite
Right.
anybody to come listen. I love it and I appreciate.
All right. Well, yes. Yeah. Go check that out. And everything that you have and continue to have. Thank you for being with me today. I appreciate your honesty and just your willingness to have these conversations. You've got so much wisdom to share. Any last thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Melissa, for having me on here. I think what you're doing is wonderful. I love your panels, your shows. It's wonderful. For the listeners, I think one of the best things that I can say from personal experience is that healing is a journey. It's not a destination.
Mm,
I say it all the time.
mm,
You will spend your life healing because just when you think you are past something, you take one step forward and 10 steps back. It's the way
yeah.
you react, the way you handle it, the way you rest your body and your mind. Our body
Mm,
holds the score. So we have to make sure that we
mm,
are healing those parts of us that continue to irk us. And then you're able to move on and have healthier relationships and physically be healthier as well. Mind body connection is real. Take care of themselves. Everybody take care of yourself.
mm. Thank you so much for that. And with that, listeners, we leave you with that this week. Take that in, think about that. Thank you so much, Teresa, for being with me. Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much,
Melissa.
listeners. You bet. Thanks for tuning in here today, and we'll see you next time here on the F.E.E.L Podcast. Hello, and thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of the F.E.E.L Podcast. If you would like more information on how you can apply these talking points that I share with our guests in each episode to your own life, really utilize this F.E.E.L framework, go to embracinglayers.com, fill out our contact form, and let's set up a free 30-minute consultation to talk about how you can start living your most authentic, organic, healthy, feel-fueled life. Thanks again for being with us today. We'll be back to you soon with another episode here on the F.E.E.L Podcast.